I used to think someone would show up. A mentor, a savior, a sign. Someone who'd take one look at me and say, "You're meant for more. Let me show you the way." I imagined it so many times. That moment of recognition, of being discovered, of being pulled out of the noise and handed a map. But they never came. No one ever showed up with the answer. No one ever grabbed me by the hand and said, "It's time." Because no one does. We're fed that story our whole lives, in movies, books, fairy tales. The idea that at some point someone or something will intervene, will rescue us, will give us permission to start, to become, to finally live. But the truth is colder than that, and in its own way, more liberating. No one is coming, not to save you, not to push you, not to tell you what your life is supposed to mean. And the longer you wait, the heavier the silence becomes. I waited for years. I waited for someone to tell me I was enough, that I was on the right path, that it was okay to leap, to speak, to try. But all I ever got was the echo of my own hesitation. People were busy with their own lives, and the ones who did show up didn't have the answers I was hoping for. They had opinions, distractions, warnings, or their own agendas. No one had the map, because there isn't one. And still, I waited. I told myself I wasn't ready, that I needed more time, more knowledge, more proof, that when the right moment came, I'd feel it, and everything would fall into place. But here's what I know now. There is no perfect moment. There is no signal from the sky. There is no wise stranger waiting to appear and give you your purpose. It's just you. Always has been, always will be. It's a hard truth, but it's the one that changed everything for me. The moment I stopped expecting someone to come fix my life, I realized I could start building it, and not the fantasy life I had in my head, not the one filled with applause and neat conclusions, but a real life, messy, slow, human, mine. It started when I picked myself up, not because I was ready, but because I was tired of waiting to be ready. I think most people are stuck not because they're incapable, but because they're secretly hoping someone else will make the first move, will open the door, will confirm their worth. And until then, they hold back. They stay small. They play it safe. Because as long as you're waiting, you don't have to risk being wrong, or failing, or being seen in your unfinished form. But let me tell you what waiting really does. It robs you. Quietly, efficiently, it takes your best years and wraps them in the illusion of not yet. It convinces you that hesitation is wisdom, that passivity is patience. But it's not. It's fear dressed up as logic, and fear is the only thing that grows when you feed it time. No one is coming. And at first, that feels like abandonment, like the world is unfair, like you've been overlooked. But then, slowly, it becomes something else, something quieter, stronger. It becomes freedom. Because if no one is coming, that means you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to seek permission. You don't have to be chosen. You can choose yourself. That's what I wish I had known sooner. That the cavalry isn't coming over the hill. That the guide, the guru, the green light, it's not out there. It's inside. And the second you stop scanning the horizon and start looking inward, you begin to find your way. Not all at once, not in a blaze of glory, but step by step, mistake by mistake, breath by breath. The world isn't holding back your destiny. You are, with your waiting, with your fear, with your hope that someone else will do the hard part for you. But they won't. And once you accept that, you're finally free to begin, not with grand gestures, but with small, decisive action, with imperfect choices, with the quiet defiance of someone who's tired of living on pause. I used to think someone would come change everything for me. But now I know. The only one who ever could was me. And that's true for you too. You don't need saving. You need to stop waiting. You need to stand up, even if your legs are shaking. You need to say yes to your own life before someone else writes it for you. Because no one is coming. And that's not the bad news. That's the beginning of everything. From the moment we're born, we're trained to wait. Wait your turn. Wait to be called on. Wait for the bell. Wait for instructions. We grow up in classrooms that reward obedience over initiative, where the right answer matters more than the honest one, and where raising your hand is safer than raising your voice. We're taught that there's a system, a sequence, a right way to do life, and you'd better not deviate from it. Color inside the lines. Follow the steps. Don't question too much. Don't dream too loud. Stay in your lane until someone tells you otherwise. By the time you're old enough to make your own decisions, you've already been conditioned not to trust yourself. You wait for someone to say it's okay to leave, to start, to speak, to stop. You look around to see what everyone else is doing before you act, as if life is a group project you're not allowed to lead. And then one day, you realize you've been living on someone else's schedule, following a script you didn't write, trapped in a waiting room with no one at the front desk. This world doesn't reward boldness, not until it succeeds. It doesn't reward truth, not unless it's profitable. It doesn't reward risk, not unless the reward is guaranteed. You're told to wait because it makes you manageable, predictable, controllable. Systems don't like wildcards. Institutions don't like people who don't ask for permission. And so you're fed the lie that waiting is maturity, that hesitating is wisdom, that staying silent is strength. But it's not. It's learned helplessness. It's survival mode disguised as politeness. Most people aren't lazy. They're trained to doubt their instincts, to need approval before moving, to wait for someone in a higher seat to say, "You may." You wait to be hired before you feel legitimate. You wait to be loved before you feel worthy. You wait to be chosen before you allow yourself to believe you're enough. And all the while, life is slipping by. Not because you're incapable, but because you were taught to ask for permission to exist. I know what that's like. I waited to speak my truth because I didn't want to upset anyone. I waited to make changes because I thought I needed credentials. I waited to take risks because I didn't want to fail in public. And while I waited, I watched other people live, not because they were more talented, but because they weren't waiting. They gave themselves the authority I kept hoping someone would hand me. Look around. The most fulfilled people you know didn't wait to be ready. They moved before the world approved. They gave themselves permission before anyone else did. And they weren't fearless. They were just done being paralyzed by conditioning that told them their place was somewhere behind the starting line. Society grooms you to be passive, to wait in line, follow the rules, earn your stripes, and maybe one day, you'll get your shot. But the truth is, no one is coming down the line handing out shots. You take them, or you don't. And most never do. Not because they're weak, but because they're still stuck in the program, still waiting for the nod, the sign, the green light from someone who doesn't even know they exist. The greatest trick ever played was convincing people that they need permission to begin. That someone has to validate your vision before it matters. That authority comes from the outside. But authority doesn't come from outside. It comes from deciding you're done waiting. It comes from stepping forward before you're called. It comes from trusting that even if you fall, at least you fell moving forward, not sitting still. You've been taught to wait your whole life. But unlearning that is the real beginning. Unlearning the idea that you're only allowed to take up space when you've earned it. Unlearning the idea that you need to prove your worth before you can act. Unlearning the fear that doing it wrong is worse than not doing it at all. You were born with instincts, with a voice, with a sense of what's right for you. But the longer you wait, the quieter those things become. You start second-guessing. You start asking for validation. You start shrinking. And eventually, you mistake your hesitation for humility. But humility isn't silence. It's not shrinking. It's knowing your place and claiming it fully. So no, you don't need another seminar, or a perfect plan, or a life coach. What you need is to stop waiting for permission, for applause, for the timing to be just right, because it never will be. The world doesn't pause for you to figure it out. It moves, and it hopes you stay still. It hopes you keep waiting, because the longer you wait, the easier you are to manage, the easier you are to forget. But you weren't made to wait your whole life. You were made to move, to try, to fail and rework and begin again. And no system, no upbringing, no title or lack of it can take that from you unless you let it. So if you're tired of waiting, good. That means you're waking up. Because the life you want, it doesn't come to those who wait. It comes to those who decide they're done asking. If you're waiting for rock bottom to wake you up, you might never get there. That's the trap. You think one day something dramatic will happen, a breakdown, a loss, a collapse, and that then you'll change, that then you'll rise, that you'll finally have your wake-up call and everything will shift. But some people never crash. Some people don't burn. They just slowly fade. They float through life, half asleep, half present, half alive, waiting for some invisible line to appear that finally makes them act. But that line never comes. They wait for a disaster, and instead, they get decades of quiet regret. You don't need a tragedy to change. You don't need to hit the floor to get honest. You don't need life to fall apart to start building something real. But most people wait anyway. They delay their decisions, delay their honesty, delay their freedom. All because they're convinced that something big needs to happen before they're allowed to wake up. I used to think the same. I thought there would be a dramatic moment where the fog would lift. A sign, a breakdown, a breaking point. But mine never came. And while I waited, life didn't. It kept going. People moved on, opportunities passed, and I stayed where I was. Not because I had no options, but because I was still hoping for that one big shakeup to jolt me into living. You think you're stuck because of your circumstances, but a lot of times you're stuck because you're waiting for pain to justify change. And here's the truth that stings. Sometimes the pain doesn't come hard and fast. Sometimes it's just low-grade dissatisfaction that lasts years. Sometimes it's mild anxiety that never goes away. Sometimes it's a whisper you keep ignoring that says, "This isn't it." But you drown it out with busyness, with distractions, with comfort. Not every life gets a dramatic arc. Some just drift. And drifting is harder to notice than crashing. It doesn't scare you. It lulls you. You settle into it. You normalize it. You even start telling yourself that this is what adulthood is supposed to feel like. Dull, heavy, disconnected. So you don't change. You wait. You keep waiting for it to get worse so you'll finally be motivated. But it just stays the same. And one day, you look up and realize 10 years passed. No one owes you a wake-up call. Life doesn't schedule interventions. It doesn't slam doors for you. It doesn't hand you ultimatums with countdowns. It whispers. It nudges. And if you don't listen, it just keeps going. It's not cruel. It's just indifferent. Time doesn't care if you used it well. It just moves. And if you're not moving with it, you're disappearing in it. You can't wait to be shaken awake. You have to shake yourself. You have to notice the numbness and choose to feel again. You have to recognize your own patterns and break them on purpose. You have to stop hoping that clarity will come like lightning and start building it brick by brick. There's no event coming to rescue you from your indecision. No dramatic climax waiting to hand you courage. The movies lied to you. Most transformations don't start in fire. They start in silence. In the quiet choice to stop lying to yourself. In the moment you say, "I'm not okay with this anymore," even if nothing around you is forcing that decision. And the longer you wait for someone or something else to push you, the more you surrender your power. The more you rely on life to give you permission to change. But life doesn't work like that. You're not the side character waiting for the plot to find you. You are the plot. You are the turning point. You are the moment you've been waiting for. It's hard to accept that no one's coming to tap you on the shoulder and say, "This is it. This is your time." But once you do accept it, everything opens. You start paying attention. You start noticing how far you've drifted, how many truths you've silenced, how many parts of yourself you've put on hold until the right time. Let me tell you, the right time isn't coming. The push you think you need, it's not on the way. And if you don't get honest about that now, you'll wake up much later in a life that doesn't even look like yours anymore. And by then, the cost of change feels heavier. By then, you've told yourself the story so many times that you forget you wrote it. And you start believing it's too late to rewrite it. But it's not too late now. Now is still yours. Now is still open. But only if you stop waiting. Only if you stop needing proof, crisis, or chaos to tell you it's time. You don't need the breakdown. You don't need the rock bottom. You just need to stop floating. Because one day, you'll either say, "I'm glad I woke up when I did," Or you'll say, I thought I had more time. And no one's coming to make that decision for you. That's yours. Right now, there are some things you don't get back, no matter how hard you hope, no matter how long you wait. The job you left, thinking it would always be there. The relationship you paused, convinced it could resume someday. The version of yourself that existed before the disappointment, before the damage, before the years dulled the spark. We carry these ghosts with us, thinking we're being loyal. But the truth is, sometimes we're just refusing to grieve. They're not coming back. That moment you missed, that chapter you thought you could rewrite, it's already over. And the longer you pretend it isn't, the more life you lose waiting for something that no longer exists. You check the phone, hoping their name will appear. You revisit old places, hoping something familiar might unlock a way back in. But the door's closed, not slammed, just quietly shut. And deep down, you know it. But knowing and accepting are two very different things. We don't talk enough about this. How many people live stuck in the shadow of what could have been? Waiting for the call, waiting for the sign, waiting for the past to loop around and offer them another chance. But time doesn't circle back. It moves forward, with or without you. There's nothing wrong with having loved deeply, or with mourning what you've lost. But there comes a moment where you have to ask, am I honoring the past, or am I hiding in it? Am I learning from it, or am I using it as a reason not to move? We waste years thinking we can reopen closed doors if we're just patient enough, if we just hold on long enough. But holding on doesn't change what's gone. It just keeps your hands too full to catch what's new. I used to think closure would come on its own. That one day, I'd just wake up and feel done. But closure doesn't arrive. You choose it. You decide, sometimes without the apology, without the reunion, without the final chapter written neatly. You decide to stop bleeding energy into a story that's already ended. And it hurts. Letting go always does. But pretending doesn't protect you. It only prolongs the pain. And in the meantime, life keeps knocking with new invitations you can't accept because you're still staring at the door that won't reopen. That job you thought would define you? It's gone. That dream you had at 17? That version of success you built your identity on? Maybe it was never meant to follow you all the way here. That person you swore was the one? They made their choice, and so did you. And maybe both of you did the best you could with what you knew then. There's no shame in missing it. There's only danger in staying stuck in it. You can't rewrite the past, but you can decide not to relive it every day. You can decide to bless it for what it gave you, the experience, the fire, the reminder of who you are, and then release it. You can say, that door is closed, and I'm walking forward anyway. Because here's what no one tells you. When you stop knocking on the wrong door, you finally hear the knock on the right one. Life doesn't wait for you to finish grieving, but it doesn't abandon you either. It just keeps offering chances, not to go backward, but to begin again, right where you are. But you won't see those chances if you keep staring at what's already left. You might be holding on because you think letting go means you failed. It doesn't. It means you're wise enough to know when a season is over. It means you're strong enough to stand in the quiet and whisper, thank you, but I'm done. The love that left, the path that closed, the version of life that didn't happen, they all brought you here. And now, you have a choice. Keep standing outside a door that no longer opens, or turn around and face the road that's still waiting for you. It won't feel the same. It won't be familiar. But it will be yours. Fully, truly yours. And sometimes, the only way to honor what's gone is to stop waiting for it to return. You say you don't know what to do, but you do. You've known for a while. That ache in your gut when you stay, that pull in your chest when you think about leaving, that quiet knowing that keeps showing up in the stillness when the world shuts off. That's your clarity. You just haven't wanted to listen, because listening would mean acting, and acting would mean risk, change, discomfort, and maybe even failure. So instead you say you're confused, that you need more time, more signs, more certainty. But you don't. What you need is courage. Most people who say they're lost aren't lost at all. They're scared. Scared of what comes after the decision. Scared of the unknown. Scared of upsetting people. Scared of letting go. So they stall, they think, they research, they journal, they pray for a clear answer, all while avoiding the one that's been whispering to them for months, sometimes years. You already know. You know the job is draining your soul. You know the relationship is over. You know the habit is killing your potential. You know the dream is still alive, and you're betraying it every day. You put it off. But you tell yourself you're not sure yet. You convince yourself you need a little more time. But time doesn't make hard choices easier. It just deepens the cost of not choosing. I used to think I needed more clarity too. I told myself I'd wait until I was 100% sure. But here's what I learned. You're never 100% sure. Clarity doesn't come before the leap. It comes after. It comes when you move anyway. When you act before the fear goes away. When you stop looking for guarantees and start trusting that your inner voice isn't lying to you. The real question isn't, what should I do? It's, why haven't I done it yet? And usually, the answer is fear. Fear of failure, fear of regret, fear of losing something or someone. But what about the fear of wasting your life in limbo? What about the fear of waking up one day with more excuses than memories? What about the fear of never being fully honest with yourself? You've already imagined the worst-case scenario 100 times. You've rehearsed the fallout, the disappointment, the judgment. But have you imagined what happens if it works? If you quit and find peace? If you walk away and feel free? If you begin and actually become who you've always been, underneath the hesitation? Fear loves to dress up as logic. It says, let's wait and see. Let's gather more information. Let's be responsible. But fear is never satisfied. It will always find one more reason not to move. One more what if, one more delay. Until one day you stop calling it fear and start calling it your personality. But it's not who you are. It's just a habit. A deeply rehearsed pattern of avoidance. And the only way to break it is to do the thing you've been avoiding. Not when you're ready, but because you're not. Because waiting hasn't made you stronger. It's made you smaller. Courage isn't loud. It's not some dramatic moment with music swelling in the background. It's quiet. It's saying the truth out loud when your voice shakes. It's writing the resignation letter, making the phone call, walking out, showing up, speaking up, starting messy and figuring it out in motion. Most of the breakthroughs in my life didn't come from knowing more. They came from doing what I already knew, but had been too scared to face. I wasn't missing information. I was missing nerve. And when I found it, even a tiny spark of it, everything started to shift. Not overnight, not perfectly, but honestly, finally. So no, you're not stuck because you're unsure. You're stuck because you're afraid. And that's okay. Fear means you're standing at the edge of something real. But don't confuse fear with a sign to stop. It's often the clearest signal you've got that something important is on the other side. You already know what to do. Now it's about whether you'll do it. Not when you're fearless, but when you're fed up with waiting. Not when it feels easy, but when it finally feels more painful not to act. So stop asking for more signs. Stop pretending you need more clarity. Start listening to what you've already heard 100 times. And this time, do something about it. Nothing changes if you don't move. Not your job, not your relationships, not your health, not your purpose. Life doesn't self-correct. It doesn't auto-adjust when you're off track. It just keeps going. And the longer you stand still, the more everything around you settles. And not in a good way. It settles into stagnation, into routines that numb you, into distractions that feel comfortable, but slowly eat away at your time, your spirit, your life. We all think we have more time than we do, that we can start tomorrow, that we can figure it out next week. But time doesn't wait, and it doesn't care if you're not ready. It moves, relentlessly, quietly, stealing pieces of your life while you debate whether or not to act. You say you want change. You say you want more. But you keep doing the same things, thinking the same thoughts, having the same conversations, avoiding the same decisions. And deep down, you know, nothing's going to be different until you make it different. Until you say, this is enough. Until you stop making plans and start making moves. You can't heal in the same place you keep getting hurt. You can't grow in the same routine that keeps you small. And you can't keep lying to yourself about someday. Someday isn't a strategy. It's a stall. A delay tactic wrapped in good intentions. And it's how most people waste their entire lives. Waiting for perfect conditions, waiting for fear to go away, waiting for some magic shift to happen on its own. But shifts don't happen on their own. You create them. With a single decision, with action, with movement. You don't need a 10-step plan. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to stop sitting in your pain and calling it patience. You need to move. One step, one email, one conversation, one boundary. One morning where you get up and do instead of delay. Action is where clarity comes from. It's where confidence comes from. It's where change becomes real. You can't think your way into a better life. You have to move your way into one. You have to risk. You have to choose discomfort over numbness, momentum over control, ownership over excuses. And yes, it will be messy. You'll doubt yourself. You'll stumble. You'll want to run back to what's familiar. But you won't. Because you'll remember that stillness doesn't bring peace when it's powered by fear. It only breeds more fear, more doubt, more decay. The life you want isn't waiting for you. It's waiting for your movement. It's not behind another book, another excuse, another reason to stay the same. It's behind the moment you say, I'm done. Done tolerating, done delaying, done pretending time is infinite. This is the part where you stop watching others live. Stop fantasizing about how it could be. Stop complaining about how stuck you are. Because you're not stuck. You're just not moving. You don't have to overhaul your life overnight. But you do have to stop settling for a version of yourself that isn't even close to who you are. And you know it. That restlessness you feel? That tightness in your chest? That's not anxiety. That's your potential trying to get your attention. That's your life screaming, wake up. You're not out of time yet, but you will be. So move now, while you still can. Move now, before comfort turns into a cage. Move now, before one more month becomes one more year. No one's coming, no one's pushing. This is your choice, your moment. Nothing changes if you don't. Stop waiting. No one is coming. And that's not the bad news. That's the best news you'll ever hear. Because it means you don't have to wait anymore. Not for permission, not for perfect timing, not for someone to save you. The door isn't locked. It never was. You were just holding the handle, waiting for someone else to turn it. But now you know. It's yours to open. You don't need to be discovered. You don't need to be chosen. You don't need someone to tell you it's okay to want more, to change direction, to say no, to start again. You don't need a hero. You need a decision. You need a moment where you look at the excuses, the waiting, the fear, and walk past them anyway. Everything you've been hoping someone else would do for you, you can do it. Right now. You can validate yourself. You can choose the path. You can change the story. You don't need to rehearse your pain until someone gives you a reason to heal. You can decide to heal because it's time, because you're worth it, because no one's going to do it for you. This isn't about becoming fearless. It's about becoming honest, about facing the truth you've always known, but were afraid to live. That you are the one who has to change it, the one who has to speak up, the one who has to walk away, the one who has to build the life. It was always you, and it still is. You're not helpless. You've just been hiding behind the lie that you need to wait. Wait for clarity. Wait for certainty. Wait for signs. But clarity comes when you move. Certainty comes when you commit. And signs? They show up when you stop stalling and start paying attention. You don't need the world to tell you you're ready. You don't need the past to make sense before you move forward. You don't need to be unafraid, just unwilling to let fear decide for you again. This is your life. Not a dress rehearsal, not a training ground, not something to pass the time until someone else makes it meaningful. You're the meaning. You're the plan. You're the answer you've been looking for. So stop waiting. Stop hoping for the push. Be the push. Be the interruption. Be the one who stops the cycle, who looks at the life you've built and says, this part's not mine anymore, and I'm not afraid to change it. No one's coming to do that for you. Not your partner, not your boss, not your parents, not the algorithm, not fate. You are the force. You are the reason. You are the one who gets to decide today to stop living like time is unlimited. There's power in that, more than you realize. The moment you stop waiting, everything begins to shift. You feel it. The weight lifting, the fog clearing, the momentum returning. You take the first step, and the ground meets your feet. You speak the first word, and your voice doesn't shake. You move, and life moves with you. Not because someone came to help, but because you stopped expecting someone to. This is your wake-up call. Not because life threw you a crisis, but because you chose to wake up before it had to. Because you got tired of waiting for a story to write itself. And the beautiful thing is, it's not too late. The past didn't disqualify you. The delay didn't destroy you. The waiting didn't win. You're still here, still breathing, still able to decide that today, finally, you're done being the one who waits and ready to be the one who moves. No one is coming, but you're here now, and that's more than enough.